France for a number of years. It was a question of creating a seminary for teachers in parish schools, but teachers who would be more than simple instructors. For it was not only a question of educating instructors, but also using the development of primary schools to convert those instructors into pastoral agents who would be able, in those parishes that were lacking in resources, to provide competent religious instruction, to help with singing in the church, and to support the priest, who oftentimes was alone and isolated. In 1829, Father Querbes wrote up the statutes of his future association in order to submit them for governmental approval. He explained that the type of normal school that he wished to create would necessitate funds that could only be obtained by officially recognized association. Civil authorization, therefore, had to be received before any further steps were taken. Contrary to expectations, and in spite of a government that was scarcely in favor of such a project, the statutes were approved by the government and by an ordinance of King Charles X on August 8, 1829. But that success created a serious difficulty with the apostolate administrator of the Diocese of Lyon, Bishop de Pin, who was unhappy that Father Querbes had agreed to deal with a government against which he was fighting. Bishop de Pin felt that by accepting the university's rules and regulations, he would be accepting the liberal spirit that, since the Revolution, had deprived the bishops of their rightful role in education. After remaining opposed to the creation of association for 2 years, the apostolate administrator finally gave his consent in 1831. Father Querbes' proposal underwent significant modifications and, even though initially conceived as a lay association, it was a society formed by a lay association and a religious congregation that was approved in Lyon in 1833, but the lay association disappeared within several years. Early in 1838, while he was directing only 20-some members, Father Querbes prepared to travel to Rome to obtain the definitive approval of his statutes, so as to assure the continuity and unity of his society with a view to his expansion. On September 21, 1838, as the Association of Saint Viator was being officially recognized as a religious congregation of pontifical right, Louis Querbes, in the presence of Pope Gregory XVI, made his perpetual vows of poverty and obedience as the first superior of his institute. From that time forward, the personal history of Father Querbes became intermixed with the history of the congregation, with its growth problems and its structures, with its failures, but also its successes. While serving as Father Superior, Louis Querbes remained the pastor of Vorles. Although he had an associate, Father Querbes retained the principal responsibility for his parish. In his role as director of his young congregation, Father Querbes still had numerous concerns. Even though candidates for the novitiate were numerous, the flood that ravaged the city of Lyon in 1840 diverted charitable funds toward the victims of that disaster and deprived the congregation of resources. The novitiate had to be closed for more than a year. A second disappointment came from the Diocese of Nevers, where a house of formation had been implanted, never attained the development that had been hoped for. Father Querbes found himself with an unforeseen foundation in the United States that arrived too late. A foundation in India, hastily accepted, poorly prepared for, and directed by less than capable persons, was also attempted. Both foundations were failures. With some schools having been irregularly opened in departments in which the association was not licensed to operate, government ministers almost succeeded in suppressing all the schools directed by the religious of Saint Viator outside the territory of the Academy of Lyon. However, from 1844, the congregation of Saint Viator grew stronger in the central region and became licensed for all of France. In 1847, the Canadian branch quickly developed. In 1854, a second affiliation opened up in the Diocese of Rodez. The way in which Louis Querbes managed the congregation was at times disconcerting. Correspondence was irregularly handled, council meetings were rarely held, and difficulties with associates resurfaced. He was certainly a very busy superior. It would seem, however, that he entered into his function as superior with greater difficulty than into his role as founder. It was only gradually that he became converted into the lifetime superior general of a religious congregation. When Father Querbes died on September 1st, 1859, the congregation consisted of some 250 religious, distributed among 4 obediences: Forles, Saint-Flour, Canada, and Rodez. Intelligent, alert, and active, Louis Querbes was a man who had deep faith and a great sensitivity to the needs of the Church and the world in which he lived. His motto, "Adored and loved be Jesus," was a perfect reflection of his spirituality. He was a man of contemplation who acted on belief of his neighbor. That contemplation became real in his encounters with God in the young and in the poor, in the reality of day-to-day happenings. That is also what Father Querbes expected of his catechists and of all Christians who must fully live out their baptism.